All right. So now you're ready to get your podcast started. And before you can even get started, you're going to have to figure out your podcast niche. So, what a podcast niche means is it's pretty much like a fancy word for your topic. So, you need to figure out what your topic is going to be. Okay, so maybe you've already kind of figured out what your podcast is going to be about and what you're going to do, talk about in your podcast. But let me tell you something before you go ahead and get started and you're ready to go and all that type of stuff. Now, you want to keep one thing in mind. Do you want to do this podcast just for fun? Or do you really want to make money from your podcast? Now, I hope you want to make some money from your podcast. And guys, there's a lot of money to be made. And this is the truth. I've been doing podcasts, like I said, for many, many years now. So, there's a lot of money to be made here. So, I want to kind of go over some of the mistakes that I made when I was choosing my niche, and this might better help you in choosing your topic. So now the first thing, as you can see, my first ever podcast that I ever did, I did it on interesting facts. So this was stuff like, let's say, there was some interesting fact about the monument in Washington, D.C., or, about some country or something like that. And I realized, hey, like, this is a good topic, but there wasn't a lot of people listening. So I started off with, just a few listeners here and there, and I was able to grow it to a couple thousand listeners per podcast. And after that, it didn't really grow. I was promoting it, I was pushing it just like anything else, but it was not growing. And I realized, hey, there isn't a lot of people that are interested in this topic. Yes, there's 1,000 to 2,000 people, but there isn't, the tens of thousands of people that I was looking to, come back and listen to my podcast every single week. So, after that, I went ahead, tried a few different podcasts, few different ways to promote it and this and that, and it really wasn't working. So after a few podcasts, I decided to do a podcast on sales. So I come from a sales background, have businesses, have companies and stuff like that. So I thought that this would be a really good podcast to do. And it turned out to be really good. So, in the beginning, again, small listens here and there, but as I started promoting it, as I started doing more podcasts, it really started growing, and I was getting those tens to, thousands of listeners per podcast, and so it turned out to be really good. And I realized, there is a lot of market out there for sales. So that's why, it turned out so good like it did. And now coming up to my last podcast that I, currently still run, I do the sales one still, but this one right here, it's about happiness and life advice. Everything that I've gone through, I thought if I shared it, it would turn out to be a really good podcast, because I realized there's a lot of people out there looking for self-help podcast, stuff like that. So I started this, and this has been the most successful podcast that I've ever done. Just to give you an idea, last week when we launched one of our episodes, in the first day, it had over 20,000 listens or downloads. So, you can tell just by that it is going really, really well. And, with the mistakes that I made and the success that I have pretty much accomplished, I would say, I've learned a few things. So your niche is very, very important, okay? When you want to do, let's say, a podcast about how to clean carpets, let's be honest, okay? There's not a lot of people looking for a podcast like that. Might be something someone stumbles on, like, one of these days, but it's not something that someone is going to listen to on a week in, week out basis, or even a daily basis, right? So picking your topic is important, okay? So you might have a topic in mind and it might be a good topic, but let's see how you can even maybe narrow it down and really get a good niche. So how do you find your niche, right? Your perfect niche. Now, here is an advice. So go to this website. I'm going to go onto it right now. It's called magazines.com. Okay, so this is a website that just allows you to do magazine subscriptions and stuff like that. Now, that's not what we're interested in. What we're interested in is right here. So we're going to go to all categories. So you can see there's so much magazines out there, right? So that means that people are actually reading this and are interested in it. So let's say your podcast is going to be on comic books. So I'm going to go ahead and click on comic books. And I'm going to go down here and I see, wow, there's a lot of comic books and, different things about it. So you can tell that, hey, this niche might actually be good. Now, the next thing you want to do is go ahead and kind of narrow it down more. Okay, so I found comic books. Now, let's say I just want to talk about, Spider-Man. Now, if you go look around for podcasts and stuff, you can see there might not be a lot of podcasts about just Spider-Man. So now your podcast is going to stand out. So people that are out there that are listening to, or have these magazines or listening to other things, you can tell that, they're interested in podcasts about Spider-Man. So now you narrowed it down. It's gonna be easier to find your audience. Now, let me give you another example. Let's say that your podcast is about health and fitness. So let me find health and fitness. It's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on health and fitness. Now, you can see there's men's health, women's health. There's stuff about, food. There's stuff about losing weight. There's Runner's Magazine. There's Yoga Magazine. As you can see, there's stuff about, hiking. There's stuff about biking. There's so many stuff, as you can see. So instead of just having health and fitness as my niche or topic, it could be men's health. It could be health and fitness in the food industry. Okay, it could be about hiking, guys. It could be about yoga. So as you can see from just those two examples, you can find your niche. You can find a topic that you want to talk about. Let's say you want to talk about health or you want to just talk about fitness. Then you go on magazine.com and you kind of narrow it down. You look around and you see, look, there's a big one right here about, bodybuilding. But there's one here about yoga. And then there's here, it's called backpacking, which is pretty much, talks about hiking and stuff. Now, as you can see, you narrow it down. That way you have more stuff to talk about. Plus, it's really easy to find that audience and that right, correct audience. So this is how you should find your niche. And as you can tell, it's very important. I made a couple mistakes in the beginning, not finding the perfect niche. But with magazine.com, I think you can really use that to figure out, what you're going to talk about and kind of narrowing it down to the perfect audience.
Hey, you've been watching PodNeo's YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. We also have a Facebook group that you can join to interact with other podcasters. Check the description link and subscribe right now.